Last week I made these 4 icons by combining 2 random icons in Geometry Dash. I really enjoyed that video and a lot of people wanted me to do a part 2, so I'm going to do the rest of the icons and finish off a full icon set. And because there are 96 different waves, I'm going to get a random number from 1 to 96, and our first one's going to be 46. Wave 46 is this one, and the icon we're going to combine it with is 63, which is this one. I'm going to put both of these icons in as reference, and then we can decide how we're going to combine them. Now for this one, I feel like I should make it look like this ribbon is on fire. So I'll trace out this ribbon, then I'll move it over here. If I right click a duplicate of it and then transform it, I can reflect it upside down and then put these 2 points together here. I just want to make it look like the back is on fire. I feel like I'm insane. This thing just fixed itself. Anyway, let's see what that fire would look like. With a red brush, I'm just going to lightly sketch it in. And with fire, I like to think a lot about circles and where they would fit in. And the reason I think about circles is because if I go in with a few blue circles, you can see that I should have made these areas a lot more circular. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to delete some of these sides so it's not too cluttered. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it will leave me with a basis to work off of. Now that we have all of those guides in, I know it looks crazy, but I'm simply going to go through and trace the fire using these blue points. And as long as I follow the curves correctly, you're really going to be able to tell how useful circles can be. Now me personally, I really don't like these corners, so I'm going to reduce them to beveled edges. That'll allow me, if I go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke, to make those corners myself. It means I can round out this edge and round out that side too. And I think that looks a lot better than it did before. But now I just have to figure out a way to merge it with this ribbon. Alright, I think I'm going to cut this piece here, then delete these points. Then I could probably use them as more flames. I just figured it out. I think if I connect these back together, it'll look like they're wrapping back around and there's fire on the back. So let me replenish those. Then I'll just move this point up to here. Then I'll do the same for this side as well. And I think that if I just put this down, I'll be able to kind of merge these two together. And I think for this side, I could probably redo this part by connecting it like this or something. Outline. And we can connect everything with the shape builder tool. And there we go. I think that looks pretty cool. Let's rotate it back. But really, all I think I should do from here is just give it some texture in the front. And honestly, to do that, I think that I should make the front part a bit more bubbly like this. And so that I can keep it a mix of the two, I'm going to keep this front part pointy. That way we'll have the texture from here and the shape from here. Now all I need to do is just trace these shapes, color them exactly how they are in here. And obviously I'll just need to squish them down, and then for this one, make the front a little bit pointier. And I'll spare you the time here and just go through the rest myself. Actually, you might want to see this part here. So in order to make this inner line that's a little bit darker and gradients out to white, I've gotten the inside paths here. I'm just going to make them a little bigger, then I'll convert it to an object. And this way I will be able to put a gradient in it. So the gradient's just going to go from this dark gray to white. All right, there we go. We've finished the front, and all I really want to do is just put shadows on the right side, because this flame is obviously going to be pretty bright. So if we just draw some shadows on the underside here, might be a little more interesting than just a pure white base. Maybe I should lighten these up a little bit, but that's pretty much it for this icon, and I'm going to move on to the robot. Alright, so the next icon is going to be the robot, and there are 68 of them, so let's generate a number. 61. This icon is 61, this film camera. So let's get the one we're going to combine it with, 43, which is this xenomorph one. And the first thing I'm actually noticing is that the feet on this one are the same as the icon that we did in the last realistic icons video for Geoblitz. Am I crazy? I don't know, but that's interesting that he reused different legs for different icons. The things that I think are the most important to keep on both of these icons are probably the film reels and the shape of this xenomorph and his teeth. I would also like to incorporate this front part of the camera as well though. And I'll definitely keep the feet from the camera because that's more interesting than the claws. Okay, so this might be crazy, but I'm gonna take these teeth and I'm thinking of putting them somewhere up with this lens. And then I'll just trace this xenomorph head real quick so that we actually have a base to do this. But I'm gonna ignore the big jaw there and I'll just bring that up. In order to make room for the lens, I'll probably have to shrink this down a bit. Then we'll have the teeth somewhere up here and we'll definitely be taking this lens. I'll just trace it real quick. I just really don't know how to fit these teeth in. Okay, maybe this is stupid, but what if I put the jaw that's right here in place right here, and then I'll put the teeth? I don't know, but I think that might work. It looks pretty convincing there. I'm gonna get the jaw from this thing by tracing it. Then I'll bring it up there. I'll kind of lock it in place. It's gonna be a nightmare fuel, but I think it's working. I just need to make some sort of base for the legs to attach to here, which I might want to use this film camera like center for. So to start, I'm going to trace this box and bring it over. But obviously to make it fit, I might want to curve these, which I can do by holding Alt. And maybe I'll just keep the top curved. And I'll trace this circle by holding Alt and Shift. And I'll just put that up here. But I feel like we also need this weird design that's right here. We'll just go ahead and use the pen tool to get that, which is honestly proving to be a lot easier than image tracing the whole thing. So I'm glad I've started doing that instead. But anyway, we got to shrink it down to fit and connect that down to the bottom. And I really like how this monstrosity is going. But let's grab these bottom teeth as well, because I feel like we're missing those. And we'll just take them up there. I'm going to keep the mouth open just to make these teeth a bit more menacing. In order to do that though, I'm going to need to drag these teeth away a little bit and kind of fit them around the mouth. There we go. There's something I'm noticing, and it's that the line weight for some of these things are different depending on where they are in the icon. So for this little box, I'm actually going to shrink the line weight here. 2 point sounds good. Might want to move this tooth back a bit. But yeah, I feel like these small details are supposed to be a bit thinner, which adds some variation. All right, for the legs, I want a combination of both icons. So I'm going to take this part of the xenomorph, which again is as easy as just tracing it in and then getting some of those details as well. Now we can take those over, make this circle a bit smaller and just move it up here so it'll fit in. Also need to go in and add a fill color for some of these. Oh, and of course add this line here, which will go right there. And as I go along, I'm making sure to highlight each group of items I want and then pressing Ctrl G so that they can be put together. I think that'll make it a lot easier when I actually put these in the game. So I'm trying to save myself some time here. And you know what? I think the head's a bit too tall, so I'm going to move it down. Okay, anyway, let's add the rest of the leg, which I think for the camera is supposed to reference a tripod. But either way, it's made out of 2 parts, so we're going to do it in 2 parts. Which just means carefully tracing over each, making the corners round, and then adding that little dot, which is going to go right here. And I think I can just take this boxy shape from the camera one and kind of just connect it to the back. Although I do think the jaw should be hanging off from it, so I'll move it up here. And yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense. There's also a shadowy part on the bottom of it, so I'll add that as well. Oh, and the lens is also supposed to be gray, so I'll just grab that color and then bring back the stroke because it disappeared. Now, other than putting a leg in the back, which I just did, I need to put in these 2 reels in the viewfinder at the back. It's genuinely as simple as just dragging it over. I'll make the stroke, oh my god, I mean smaller, make the stroke a little bit smaller. Maybe for the big one, it should be 1 bigger. And now that I'm seeing how good this is turning out, if you see it in the thumbnail, do not be surprised. And I'm wondering if I should put it on the back of here. Yeah, I think that would fit in more. And then again, to trace these perfectly, you just hold Alt and Shift and drag with the ellipse tool. I'll do that twice to get both. I was gonna put 2 up here like this, which also kind of looks good. Do I give it 1 eye or do I give it 2? I'm gonna take a break and give it some thought. 3, 2, 1. Okay. I think I've decided that I want both eyes on here. I just need to move them down. So with that being said, I've finished this icon and it's time to move on to the spider. I really can't wait to see how this one turns out in game. Alright, time for the spider, which is a random number 1 through 46 is the first icon, which is, where is it? This one. That's interesting. And 69, which is the last? Yep. The drill. So let's bring those in. And again, we're going to need to decide which pieces we're going to take from each icon. So I really like the legs and of course the fact that there are skulls on this bottom one. And I'm probably going to take spikes from the top of them as well. Now the one most important thing that I think is most recognizable from the top is this drill. So I'll simply take this over and use that as the front. But where's that drill going to be coming out from? You guessed it. We're going to have to make some sort of skull that wraps his mouth around the entire drill. Which this is kind of a crude representation, but you get the idea. I like this skull, so I'm gonna trace it, and I will have to kind of make up part of it, but mostly I'll be able to just trace the eyes in here. I'll hide them for a second so that I can also get these little gray circles too. Now with this top jaw, I'm just gonna flip it around, and we gotta make the drill a little smaller so that it won't make the icon too big. We gotta unhinge this jaw somehow, and I think if I cut this, then drag this point down, that's gonna be the key to it. So wrap that mouth around and put in some jagged teeth around the bottom as well. There we go. This is cursed. Alright, kind of want to put in a crack at the top of the skull like this one has, which can't be that bad. Let's just bring it up. That's made me realize that I definitely want the eyes to be angrier. Take this, just make it a whole lot flatter. It's going to be way too tall, so let's shrink it down a little bit up here just to make sure we have the right size. And I also want those drill lines here. Take a few from this drill, remove their fill, and give them a stroke. And it's as easy as shrinking them down and stretching them out. There we go. Also going to need some different colors for each section of the drill. Alright, for the highlight on the drill, it seems to gradient out a little bit. A lot of gradient here. I'll keep the colors of the gradient, but to make it affect what's below it, I feel like there's some sort of tab. Let's see. window. Might be the appearance panel. This is not working for some reason. Oh, it's because I have the stroke as multiply. Instead, I need to change the fill to multiply. There we go. But also, I didn't want it to be multiply. I wanted it to be, I did it completely wrong. It needs to be screen, and then I need to flip the gradient. So let's just rotate that. Drag. Okay, I suck at Illustrator. So I kind of did need the appearance tab. Okay, toggle the visibility of that color. Opacity. It's okay, I'm learning. I should make this at least bigger so I can understand what's happening. So apparently in the transparency menu, you can add a mask. So now we have the highlight on the right side and then nothing on the left. That was tough. The shadows will not be nearly as bad. I'll just set the fill layer to multiply and then lower the opacity. Now with all that done, we got to extend the back out here somewhere. I think first maybe I'll add a few of these spikes, which I'll put on the back of the head so that we can save some space vertically. I should probably put in some of the bolts that are on this one as well. Oh, I also got to add some shadow underneath the eyes. Let's do that. All right, so now I got to make a choice. Do I get the skulls from the back of this, or do I use the mechanical like hexagonal prism we have there? And I'm thinking we take the hexagon because we already have so much of the skull and the spikes that it has down here. Just trace the front. And while I put this in, I would really appreciate it if you went down and hit the subscribe button. It's completely free, and of course you can always unsubscribe if you change your mind later. I really appreciate it. We're about to hit 50,000 subscribers. Maybe we have at this point, but either way, it helps me out way more than you might think. And while you're down there, there's a join button next to the subscribe button where you can become a member for just 99 cents. I'll put all the other members on screen right now, but that's just another way you can support me and get some emotes and small updates out of it. I think I should take some inspiration from the back little bit here, and I think I can translate that design by getting 3 hexagonal sections and then making a bit of a gradient from this gray, and then this last bit will be the lightest gray. This icon is whack. We can put in some bolts on the corners, maybe one more on the edge, and then we'll just need to put in legs. So grip up this whole head area, then I'll trace the shape of these legs and then put bolts on them like those. Then I'll just have to put some shading on this side and this side. First, I think I'm going to do the easy part, which is putting in these bolts. Let me just put a line on this side and fill it with this color. You can also curve it a bit with Alt and do the same for the bottom and the other leg. Pretty cool. We should move on to the swing though. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. For our last icon, it's going to be the swing, which is the new game mode. And I guess I shouldn't say new because 2.2 came out almost a year ago now. Anyway, we will see how many there are. There's 43, and I'm just going to hit generate. 41. This one, another skull. Pretty interesting. All right, let's do 43 as well. Okay, so we have this icon and this icon. All right, and for one last time, we're going to decide what pieces of each icon we're going to take. Obviously, the most important part of the bottom one is the fact that it's a skull mask. And for the one on top, I would say the horn and the eyes and the fins are the most important. Let's start with the base and then trace this skull mask shape. And you know what? Because the teeth are pointy up here, I'm going to keep them pointing down here as well. The mask will go somewhere up here. It'll also need a nose, actually. And then next, I'm just going to take these eyes from the top. I have these 2 circles here, and if I just use the shape builder tool and remove this by holding Alt, then it'll leave us with that eye shine that's happening in this icon. And I kind of want to shrink down the actual eye shape to fit the skull. Now it's more of a circle, but it'll still fit this in there. I just got to take this to the other side and flip it around so we can shrink it and squish it a little bit and fit that pupil in there. And maybe I should move this nose down a little bit because we're going to need to make room for this horn. And I need the form to be more readable, so I'm going to stretch it up a little bit. Let's not forget that there's also a shadow in there. Eyedropper that. And on the whole right side of the skull's face, there's a big shadow. So I also have to make that happen. It does also have a highlight on the left here though. So we'll just put that there as well. Even though there are kind of shadows on the left side of the teeth here, I think I should put highlights on it instead. And then I'll put shadows on the right. Let's duplicate that over here. And one more time. There we go. That makes the light more consistent because the light's coming from the left side now. But yeah, no, I almost forgot. We got to put shadows on the right side of these teeth. I'll color pick that from the shadows over here. And I'll just drag these over to each tooth. Let's also put in some shadows around the eyes and a shadow on the right side of this horn as well. All right, so now we just need to make sure that there are mask straps and fins on the back of this icon. Let's bring them up here and fill them in. And there are highlights on the top here. So I'm going to do the same thing, except I think the highlights should reach the left side as well. Simply drag this up here and turn it a little bit. And we have highlights for both. Of course, there's also going to be a shadow down here. You know what? I might even just draw it in. Hey, looks fine to me. Now I'll just trace these fins, which for some reason are flat on the edge. I don't know why, but we'll go with the vision of the original anyway. And it really is as simple as just dragging it over here, fitting them in place, and making duplicates where I just color pick each one. And there you have it. I've made a full set of Geometry Dash icon combinations, and now it's time to finally put my colors on it and see what they look like in game after this transition. It took me like 3 3 hours to put those icons in the game. But alas, it's time. I don't even remember which icon is first. The wave. First, we're gonna look at the wave. Surely it will have worked. Yes! Wait, this is actually... I kind of like this icon to just play with. It kind of feels smooth. Am I crazy? Please use these. They're in the description. And tell me if I'm right about that, because it feels good to use. I promise. The next icon. It's the robot. I have high hopes for this one. What I'm saying is that I have high hopes for this icon. Oh, yes. It looks so good. I made the teeth white because that's how they were on the other icon. Look at that. It's beautiful. Probably one of my favorites so far. I have a strange feeling that's going to be the thumbnail for this video. And here's what that robot looks like in platformer. Yeah, that's kind of beautiful. If you see around the feet, I kind of had to like get rid of some of the orange. Don't even ask. It was a nightmare. Okay, for the next one, we got to go to Finger Dash because it's the spider. And... oh god, this one is so weird. I really do like how the gradient went on his body though. I was hoping that would work. There's his idle animation. It's just kind of gross with that drill in his mouth, but it's certainly an interesting combination of icons there. Alright, so we got one more. Time to play the other Dash level, which is Dash. Wow, okay. I do like this one a lot. This is really good. I want to get a closer look at this swing. Yeah. Okay, so the top is pink because... never mind. I'm not going to explain. That was just such a terrible time of trying to put these icons in the game. I don't even want to think about it. It turned out great. I made the eyes white. And here's our full set of combined icons. Just let me know if you enjoyed this and leave a like and subscribe.